Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second panel of day 2 of the virtual RedBar Global Meetup. This is a pretty phenomenal panel, I think, with some really amazing watchmakers. So I think this will be really great for everybody. Adam, would you like to do the honors of introducing our panelists today, please?
So again, people, I'll kind of be a little bit in the background here. Too many cooks spoils the broth. But obviously, I'm going to go down the list that I'm looking at. We have Romain Gauthier, who I want to say is the smilingest of the living legend independent watchmakers out there. His pieces, don't really need any introduction, but I will say that it's the logical one.
Yes.
Is that you? Yeah, that's you. I think is probably one of your signature watches and an award-winning piece at that. He's coming to us live from his atelier. So this is where the magic happens behind him. That's not, a virtual background. And we're really pleased to have you with us. So thank you for taking the time. I'm going down the list again, and now I see the Horological Brothers. Bart and Time Grönefeld. And again, I feel silly introducing you people to the group that's watching because they know exactly who you are and what you do. But your pieces, again, each one of them is iconic in its own way. And it's basically representative of the very best that independent watchmaking has out there. So once again, we are honored to have you with us. I really, can't thank you enough. And also, what do you say about Max? I mean, this is a guy I really can't introduce because we all know exactly who he is and what he does. But MB&F, and the F being a very big part of that, is a unique entity in the independent watch world because he's basically taking the best of the best out there and collaborating to create some truly mind-blowing watches. And it's actually, I described one of the pieces as basically artwork on your wrist. And at the end of the day, in spite of how outlandish and crazy some of your designs get, and these are all flights of fancy that come straight from his own little mind and his childhood and everything else, is that they're still watches, that they're still practical timepieces. And so we're very lucky to have you, not only in the industry, obviously, but to have you with us today. So thank you for that. And then there's Kathleen, who is going to steer our little conversation today. So folks, I'm going to fade into the background again. Although one thing I have to do before I go, and this is for each of you, stop smiling. Can you hold it? Romain's going to lose it. He can't do it. He can't do it every single time. All right, that was it. I felt that Bart and Tim had a handle on this, and Max, but I knew you couldn't do it. All right, I'm out of here. You guys have a wonderful conversation. Like I said, I'll be in the background to pick on you guys later.
Yeah, so just a reminder to all the attendees, please put your questions for the panel in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. The chat usually goes by pretty fast, and so the Q&A will make sure that we actually see your questions and are able to pose them to the panelists. So this first question is for all of you. I'm going to start with Bart and Tim, though, and then we'll ask each of you the same question, which is what led you to get started in the watch industry? And we all know. I think we all know the answer to this for you guys, at least. And then what continues to inspire you today to keep making watches? So Bart and Tim, you can take this one first, please.
Well, we are third generation watchmakers in our family. Not really, they didn't have the brands, but at least they were watchmakers, restorers. We took that trade. We went to watchmaking school in the Netherlands, but building our own watch, it only came once we met our teacher in Switzerland, Mr. Antoine Simonin. And this guy, he was not only a teacher, but also a collector. And he showed us wonderful pocket watches. And then we thought, wow, that watchmakers took so much time to build wonderful watches. We hadn't seen that before. So that really inspired us to continue. Here we are. That we continued building our own workshop, Tim and I. So this is how we went into the business in a nutshell.
Great. And what continues to inspire you today to keep innovating and keep making watches?
Well, first of all, we feel very, very privileged that we are able to build such magnificent watches, because you know, this is not for everyone. This is for purist people. And then before we went into watchmaking, we didn't even think that it existed. People like that collecting high-end timepieces. So now we are just, we are feeling very privileged that we have a following, people that want to buy our watches, and that's just a wonderful feeling. And they give us a lot of energy to continue.
That's great. Thank you. Max, the same questions to you. What led you into the industry, and what continues to inspire you today to keep making your fantastic creations?
Have anything in my background in the watchmaking world, even though I'm Swiss, but I was brought up in the 70s, where the Swiss watchmaking world was dying. And when I was 18, my parents wanted to give me a watch, which is what usually Swiss parents do. And it was the middle of the quartz year, and I was like, a watch, really? Okay. And they gave me a budget, which was a very big budget for them and enormous for me. And so I started looking around, and one day, it's the first year at university in engineering, I said, I'm an engineer, and I asked the guy next to me what he was wearing, and he said, it's a Rolex. I said, what's a Rolex? And he started explaining it to me, and at some point I asked him the price, and the price of his watch was 7 times my budget. And I gave him hell. I gave him absolute hell. Like, do you think anybody could spend that sort of money? It was like 1 year of everything, all the little jobs I used to do in a year would probably make that. And so it stuck with me. And 3 years later, I did a study during my engineering studies on mechanical watchmaking and why it existed, because I just didn't understand why people would spend these insane amounts of money for something which was completely antiquated in an engineering point of view. And the industry was so small in those days. As a student, I sent letters out. That's what we used to do. We used to send letters out. And every CEO of every brand, with one exception, actually wrote back to me as students saying, if you come at this day at that hour, I will receive you. So it was the CEO of Jaeger-LeCoultre, of Audemars Piguet, of Breguet, of Vacheron Constantin. There was Mr. Gerald Genta himself, and they all met me, and I went to see them, and I sort of asked them, why do people buy this? And they all told me the same thing. They said, look, A, it's beautiful. And it was the first time somebody as an engineer spoke to me about beauty, because as an engineer, you really don't want to take care of that. And second, they all told me, if this industry dies, and it will probably die, well, there's generations of knowledge are going to be lost. And they took me through their workshops, and I was blown away. I never actually expected to work in the industry, and then I have to thank one of those gentlemen, who was Henri-John Belmont, who was then the CEO of Jaeger-LeCoultre, who actually gave me my first job. That was a couple of years later in '91. And so I'm going to be at my 30 years in this industry next year. And what keeps me going? The same thing which got me hooked. It's all about human beings and about beauty. It's all about working with your guts and a little bit with your head. Unfortunately, you have to use that. And I just found a family. I found my calling. I found what made me proud, what made me happy. Because I was very lost before that. I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. And watchmaking saved me. So I continue being saved and giving back.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Romain, the same question for you. What got you started in the watch industry, and what continues to inspire you to keep going?
Absolutely. My background is a bit different in the thinking. I'm born in the Vallée de Joux, so one of the heard, as you know, in Switzerland for complicated watches. But I was not necessarily really interested about that, because I'm born inside of that. And everybody was in a way, thinking, working, doing everything around that. And I was not necessarily like everybody doing the same and follow and all of this. And this started to drive me in a different roads. But no later than a few years after my education, I started to have an opportunity to produce parts of watches. So the component, wheels and all of that kind of things. And I say to myself, Romain, you're born in the Vallée de Joux. You have an engineer background, technical background about mechanism, how to build that. And now you know how to do parts of watches. So my clear vision was, Romain, it's quite interesting. The watchmaking has many kind of things and there is a lot of compromise. And in that time I said, yes, there is a possibility and there is a part, not necessarily with huge quantities, but collectors are expecting things that are not necessarily made of compromise. And it can be in terms of design, it can be in terms of finishing, it can be in terms of complication. And for sure, if you think about to sell 1,000 watches like this, maybe it's going to be complicated, but it will be forever. Collectors around the world and more collectors want to appreciate will, you know, in a way, start a kind of passion, because behind the watchmaking, there is so much work, different type of work, that this is the things that I like. You know, I switch every day from a design, from a production thinking, from a finance, from marketing, from thinking about collectors around the world, thinking about travels. So this is, all of this makes me, you know, in the thinking about in the future, to continue. Yes, it's my life. You know, I built a team, and also for that reason, it's all of what I have, you know, and my children, all of this. And I know that this is, I can say for you, you know, my dream in terms of what we do is, if I can build something that can survive after my time, I can say, on Earth, that will be the most incredible things. You know, I'm born in the Vallée de Joux with Audemars Piguet. I'm born in Vallée de Joux with Breguet, with Gégère Lecoultre, with all of this, and Philippe Dufault. And if I can achieve something like this, for me, that will be the biggest dream that I could have.
Thank you. Max, this question is for you. So, you know, collaboration is obviously very key to your philosophy and process. So what do you think is the most important thing needed for a successful collaboration? And what is your process like when you start, you know, when you find a new person, or do people approach you, or are you selecting people that you'd like to work with? How does that come about?
It's a big question, that. It happens usually by chance, by chance meetings. It's never something where I'll suddenly call up somebody and say, oh, let's work together. I think the secret of a great collab, at least for me, I started 20 years back with Opus, is first of all, bringing two worlds together which are not the same. It's pointless to have your twin brother, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, you guys, to work together. If you do a collab, is basically you need two worlds to be very different, so they enrich each other. You need that both parties dream of creating a great product, and not one party who's wanting to make money and the other one wants to do a great product. That's the recipe for disaster. So you need both of them to be aligned on the same goal, and you need the same values. You need both the creators to have enough ego, but not too much. What I mean is, if you're a creator, you've got an ego. I'm sure my friends and colleagues here will admit to that. When you create your own product, you know what you want. But when you do a collaboration, you have to know when you have to let go, because somebody is going to modify your baby and going to modify it most probably not the way you were actually planning it. And you have to know that you have to let that go, and sometimes say no, sometimes say yes, but both parties have to have that. Otherwise, if one is like a complete dictator and the other one is really cool, it's just not going to work. Those about the ingredients. I know how to make a great curry. That's a collab. But honestly, what's really interesting is bringing two very different worlds together who really enrich each other and create a product that neither would have created on their own.
Yeah, and there's many examples of that, I think, in your collaborations, like the one with Black Badger, for example. You know, I don't think either of you would have probably come up with that on your own. So it's, you know, it's quite cool.
And that's why all these watch fairs are fantastic, because most of these events, of these creations, were created around a drink or bumping into each other during watch fairs. So I'm really scared with what's happening, because this doesn't happen on Zooms. This happens when we're in Basel, in SIHH, in Watch Time event, that was, Black Badger was Salon QP, Stepan Sarpaneva. I always remember I was coming out of my miniature microscopic booth in Basel one day, and he was sitting there just in front, and I sit down with him and I say, "So what's up?" And he looks at me and he says, "You need a moon." Like, oh, I probably do. And that's how it started. And so, I mean, all these watch fairs, I hope they'll continue one way or the other.
Yeah, that does make me a little bit nostalgic for, I always find in Basel and an SHH now, or whatever they're calling it now, was hanging out in the area where you were, because you really take the and friends part of MBNF like to heart, I think, because you're in Basel especially, you know, you're surrounded by people you've either collaborated with or, you know, friends, and it's always the most fun place to hang out in that fair. I always find myself coming back there at the end of the day to have, you know, a drink with Alberto, or, you know, like, you know, so like,
or with these guys,
yeah. And it is something, but I can see that, you know, there's a lot of conversations that happen just, you know, in an idle moment when you're in between appointments that could lead to some kind of collaboration. So I'm hoping we can get back to that environment soon. Romain, I have a question for you. You were once quoted saying that if we're going to do it, then let's do it properly. So what does that mean to you? When you're approaching watchmaking, or you're approaching developing a piece like the Logical One, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to do it properly?
Yeah, you know, I cannot say that there is only one way to doing what we do, but there is a way which has to be professional, you know. The thinking is about, you know, it's not the type of work that you should try. It's the type of work that you have to invest, all of you, you know, all of the thinking about your life, the future of your life. So it's not like a job that you say, oh, let's try to, maybe it's going to be successful and we can try and all of this. No, at that level of watchmaking, you know, it's not the thinking about to try. Is so much knowledge, so much investment, and everything for me has to be done professionally. And this is most of the time, you know, the problem with some brands, that they are looking for, in a way, for business opportunity, you know, that kind of thinking more like a business side, you know, and for sure you have to balance both. For my side, for example, when I started, I was probably driven only by passion. And I also understood about that, Romain, you have to manage the business side, the understanding. I did the MBA also to understand that, and the understanding about how to manage passion and business. And then after that, this is what every of our collectors wants at the end of the day, is that to see us alive for forever, you know. And to manage that with that kind of thinking, you need to be professional. You need to take care about a lot of points, and sometimes maybe I don't know, people think about I'm the too serious one at the watchmaking, but no, it's not that. It's I don't know, maybe by education or the ballet de jour, you know, it's I'm surrounded about big companies. So I understood about that. If you want to try that, it will be complicated. You know, I was most than aware that in the 80s, it was difficult for most of the brand. So this is how, you know, in a way, has to be like this. I see too much brand who try, and then after that, they fall, they go in bankrupt. And at the end of the day, what it's doing bad consideration, bad understanding about independence. Sometimes, you know, that when the brand goes in bankrupt, what we do with those watches, it creates problems for our retailers around the world, for everybody. So this is why sometimes, you know, I'm also in a bit sensitive about it's a wonderful work. You know, I don't know how many work who can give the joy that we have to travel around the world, to meet collectors, incredible people around the world, to share about what we do, to create team, to create so much kind of, you know, a stimuli from, like I said, from design, from production, from all of this. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And this is all of these things for me has to be done properly, professionally, as the best as we can, and not like a try.
Thank you. Bart and Tim, I have a question for you that's kind of, it's actually started with the conversation that we had last year in New York at Cellini, which is, you know, that you have, and it also touches on something that Romain just said, that you really enjoy meeting the people, meeting the collectors, talking with people, traveling around the world, and connecting with people. And I think this, you know, this question could be for everybody, but I'll start with Bart and Tim. So now in the current situation, how are you able to, you know, maintain that connection with people? Obviously we have these wonderful Zoom meetings that we can connect with people, but how are you adapting to be able to maintain that relationship with collectors and people who are interested in your work?
Yeah, that's a difficult world now. It's changing completely from traveling around the world, talk to people, have a drink with the people, and now suddenly everybody stays at home. So that's quite a nightmare for us, because we are not people who are going everyday live on the Instagram or on the Facebook. We are more people from the real world. We like to talk with people, have a dinner with people, and have fun. So it's changing a lot. But on the other hand, we see that collectors around the world, they know how to find us. They go to the retailers, they go to the Instagram, they go to email or whatever. And actually, it's crazy how much demand we have at the moment. At this moment, we are more connected with the clients than before, because before the people didn't go easily on the internet to look for us, to find us by email or by phone or whatever. But now these days we see we have a lot of communication going on, and it helps us a lot. And for that we are quite proud that it's going quite easy for us this way.
Yeah, usually at watch fairs or collector meetings, usually you see many times the same people. But now I think we meet more people that don't go to these events. We will get in touch directly with them. And that's also very important for us, and I think for every independent brand. It is very much the relationship with your customer, because they don't buy usually just one watch. They will go for a second or third watch as well. So we want to keep them happy, and then we do everything in our power to do that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I think that you're right. For independence, you know, the relationship with people is key, especially in these times. Is, you know, connecting with people. I think to Max's earlier point, it's all about the people. It's not, you know, basically the watches are very important, but it's the personal connection that really makes the relationship work. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and ask you guys, all of you, and I'll start with I'll stay with the Gronefelds on this one. So as independent brands, how do you decide what risks are worth taking? Because, you know, like if you're not part of a big conglomerate, you know, you've got to manage risk a little bit differently. So how do you decide what risks are worth taking? And has that changed for you in the past 6 months as we've entered this new sort of landscape?
Well, I thought in the beginning when it all started, we were also pushing the brakes and take care, be careful about what's happening now. But very soon after we found out that the world is not going to die, it's more that, I just said before, that people start contacting us. And for that reason, we got also a lot of orders, even more than normal. And that gave us the idea to invest even more this time than we did, for example, 2-3 years ago. Now we are investing more into the long way, more into the future with more models, and also we are investing more in our team because we see the future quite good, quite bright.
Okay. Same question to you, Max. As an independent brand, you know, how do you decide what risks to take, and has that changed for you during the pandemic?
I think we had pretty much the same sort of story as Tim and Bart. The 17th of March, when I sent the whole team home because it was confinement, and 24 out of our 26 retail partners were closed around the world, and our suppliers were all closed, all the friends were at home, I thought it was game over. I honestly thought it was game over. I thought, because like all of us, every time we had a tough year, and we had 4 really tough years in our 15 years, the solution was to go and take your suitcase and then to go traveling and to explain what you're doing to the people around the world. And there we were all blocked. So I felt like we just had our feet and our hands cut off. And I thought it was going to really be a disaster. And then April was really good. May was incredible. June was fantastic. And exactly like you guys, we're at our absolute record high sales of our history. And I'm not sure I've got a good reason to it. There are probably a multiple of reasons. But one thing is sure, that I thought I needed to travel, and actually it's happening without. But I also think, like for all of us here, is that it's 15 years of really hard work. It's 18 calibers during those 15 years. It's being in contact with people. I also maybe it's a wishful thinking, hope that all these status-driven customers, at least for a few months, stop being interested in status because they had nobody to show off to, and that they were maybe more interested in the intrinsic value of great artisan watchmaking and great stories of human beings. Because our stories are like these incredible films which last for tens of years of people meeting and learning and getting to work together. That's when you wear a Grönefeld, a Romain Gauthier, one of our pieces, that's very much, it's the story of all of our lives. And I sort of hope that people have maybe focused a little bit more on that than on, oh, look, I've got a lot of money. And maybe that's what's actually making that us independents are doing pretty well. So coming back to the last question, for 6-8 weeks, I was on the brakes, we're stopping everything. And now we're going full steam ahead, and we're looking for our third watchmaking movement constructor internally, and we're hiring, and we're hoping to get all our crazy ideas to continue coming out.
Thank you. Romain, same question for you. How do you decide what risks are worth taking, and how has that changed or not changed over the last 6 months?
So my vision is what we do, you know, we have to be different. We have to be different if we want to have that level of client. You know, I started now years ago to understand about the simple things, that the challenges that big brands has and the challenges that we have. And we don't have the same challenges at the end. You know, for me, I take all of what we do without boxes. I will explain you. For me, the big companies, they unfortunately most of the time work with a box. The box is the things that they have to do. Like, for example, a new collection is decided by the marketing, by the board, by the engineers. And then after that, you know, it's related with the reality of the brand. The reality of the brand is related with quantities, with quality, with when this collection should be introduced. And this is to manage, I can say, also the production of the company for hundreds of people for the company. So it means they have different challenges. You know, they have competitors stronger than what we have. In the thinking, they have to be in the market. And for that, they cannot be crazy in terms of finishing. They cannot be crazy in terms of a certain time engineering. They can be crazy in terms of design, because it's costly in a way to be able and to be free to do that. But I started to understood about that, and I said to Romain, the collector will go for what you do because they don't want a box. They want to have something extremely creative. It can be for the aesthetic, and it can be for the finishing, it can be for the complication, or it can be for everything. But our collectors, they don't ask for compromise. They ask for beauties. This is the first things. Nobody buys something ugly in a way, you know. People are buying because they love it for different kind of reasons, but because for them it's beautiful. So this is all of the things for me that I know with the quantities of that we do. There is who will appreciate that, will understand that. And there is always a certain level that we say, what's next? And what's next sometimes is not necessarily what fit the box, is something that a bit crazy, a bit, you know, more than everything, but for sure, unfortunately, not with a certain level of price that everybody can afford. But I'm born in the Valley, and I see that, you know, and my only one way since I did my MBA in 2000 was located in that kind of vision. More like, you know, Philippe Dufour, very exclusive, to work hard, and everybody would like to have in a way the best finishing, the best everything, but it's taking time, it's taking energy. It's a kind of vision of what you want to do. You cannot do what we do multiply by 1,000, for example. So I think with that, I'm quite confident, and I'm very, you know, comfortable that forever we will have that type of clients who wants to have things with real values behind in the thinking about the no boxes and how it could be a certain next level.
Okay, thank you. Max?
Add to that, if I may.
Yes.
It's, I think the greatest example, counterexample we got is that we launched our little HM10 Bulldog 7 days after we closed the company on 24th of March, and we debated a lot. First of all, I'd procrastinated on that watch so long because I thought nobody was ever going to take me seriously or us seriously because it's a Bulldog. And so we launched that, and it was probably one of our greatest emotionally charged launch. I mean, we got so many messages of people said, you made my day. You made me smile for the first time this week. And God knows that it didn't seem the right thing to do to launch HM10 Bulldog in the middle of the COVID breakdown. And it did. So I think we shouldn't change our projects because of what happens in the world. We in one way or the other, watchmakers, we are artists. And we should believe in what we do, and then we will find ways maybe to speak to people.
That's great. So actually, can you show that again, Drew? So I mentioned this in our tech check. We actually did something during this time as well. So we started doing these Zoom meetings with various people, and we did a live drawing session with Lee from 1 Hour Watch on Instagram. If any of the folks watching, you should go follow him because he draws a watch every day. And he did a live drawing that one, please just show it one more time, Drew. I'm sorry. That one, this one is actually the redrawn version of it because the live one was a little bit more like raw. So he did all 4 of these drawings with prompts we gave him during the session, and people reacted really well to this. You know, like people were like, you know, still in their homes, but they were connecting with people, and it really, you know, brought a smile to their face. So that's the one he drew live in the session, which he also drew that movement live in the session. He drew these four things in an hour, and then he redrew the bulldog. It was a little bit more of a actual bulldog sort of take to that watch. But you know, I agree with you. Thanks, Drew. You can take that off the screen. I agree with you that like that. The reaction to that from all of our, you know, the folks that I talk to. Obviously, I talk to watch collectors all the time. In my, you know, as a watch collector myself, and most of my friends are, you know, into watches. Everybody reacted so positively to that because, you know, all we were hearing was terrible news all of the time. And one of the things that's a joy in our lives is, you know, the playful, like having something playful like that come out was really, I think it was great for everybody. It like improved everyone's mood, I think a little bit. So to get into some questions from the audience, specifically, I have my first one is for Bart and Tim. It's from Vasu, who would like to know the backstory on the Only Watch piece because he is the person who has it, of course. I was so excited for him when he got that in that Only Watch auction because he really wanted it. So he was so happy to get that. But he would like to know the backstory on the dial color and texture, how you came up with that for the Only Watch repertoire.
Well, yeah, we always had a little bit similar dials before that because first of all we use many times solid silver, kind of soft material, and we did some sandblasting. Sandblasting made it really dull, and then we went on and we blasted it not with sand but with brass particles, and that gave a nice little spark. And for the Only Watch, we wanted to increase that even more, and we just went ahead and it took us like we spent 4 times the time on blasting the dial. And the colors, yeah, it's just a combination of salmon color, a little bit different, and a little bit greenish color. But yeah, it was a kind of experiment, but it's quite hard to do, and we are glad that he likes it.
Yeah, he likes it, and I like it. I think it's really beautiful. I mean, you know, I'm very fond of that watch in general, but I think you did a great job with the dial.
Yeah.
It's really nice. A question for Max from the audience. It is from Jason. I've always been a big fan of Alain Silberstein, and I love the 36 LM1s that MB&F made with him in collaboration. His own watches were always out there. Jason is wondering if it was necessary and or difficult to rein him in.
Well, I have to start with saying I was Alain's, and I still am Alain's #1 fan. I remember in Baselworld, which was not yet called Baselworld 25, 30 years ago, the first booth I would go to visit on the first day was always Alain, because he managed to each time create something which was incredible. You have to put in context again. History is important. I think a lot of people forget the history part of what we're doing. Is in a very classic conservative world of 34mm round watches with white dials and Roman numerals, and I'm not saying I don't like them, I love them. Alain came out like an alien 30 years ago, and every year would come out something completely insane. And one day it was Tempest, the big event that Michael Tay did in Singapore. That was 2007, I think. And Alain was there, and I'd never met him. And we ended up having dinner at the big table all together. That's why I'm telling you these watch events are so important. And I was like, oh, it's Mr. Silberstein. And we had a great talk. And at the end of the talk, I just pitched him. I said, look, would you like to redesign one of my pieces? I'd never done that to anybody, because when I created MBNF, I think there was a lot of anger. It was all about me. It was all about doing my thing. And I clearly, the anger level had gone down a little bit. And so I said, would you like to do something? And he said, yeah, okay. And that's how we started. He did the first HM2 Silberstein. That was 2009. And I was expecting something completely flamboyant, full of colors, because that's how I knew him. And he came out with a black box. And that was his drawing. And I was like, but that's, in my mind, that's not what I wanted. I wanted a fully colorful Silberstein thing. And I didn't tell him that. And I was like, why are you doing that? He said, because when I see your HM2, that's what I see, and that's it. Okay. So as I said, you have to put your ego away and accept that that's, but then the more I looked at it, the more I thought it was incredible, because it was not what I expected. And honestly, in our world, aren't we looking for what we're not expecting rather than what we are expecting? And so then a few years later, I met him up in Shanghai in another event, and I just launched LM1. And we go and have lunch together, and I remember it like blew my head. It was full of chili peppers, and he was like eating them like this, and I was like, and he said, "Oh, I like your LM1." Oh, thank you very much. But I wouldn't have done it that way. Okay. He says the dials. No, I would have made cups. I was like, okay. And I just didn't say anything. I just launched LM1. And then a couple of years later, I called him up. I said, do you want to do the cups? And he was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, look, you told me that. He'd completely forgotten. He said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And honestly, it's an incredible joy to work with him. He's got his very clear ideas, but he's happy to listen. And for example, on those LM1s, the Sapphire Bridge was actually our idea. So the balance wheel bridge, which is incredible. It's like it's in two parts, incredibly complex. And I told him, like, you were the first man in the watch industry with, they're battling with Vincent Calabrese to have created a sapphire case on a watch. It'd be cool to do a sapphire bridge. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, let's do it. It's very rare to find people like Alain, who's very strong-minded, but at the same time is like, okay, if you want to change, let's change. So it's really a pleasure working with him.
Great. Romain, I have another question from the audience. What complication fascinates or intrigues you the most? And is there a complication that is still yet to be created?
The logical two.
Yes, yes, exactly. I don't know, you know, the things is, should be related with the brand, should be related with the DNA of what we love, what we think. And for me personally, you know, I like to do things with my personal vision. And it's not necessarily to say that it's the first time in the world, the first of everything, but I feel more that, you know, that what we do is related with our philosophy, with our DNA, and the collector appreciate that. They don't need to have the things that will be incredibly different in the thinking. For sure, everybody works or think about something without hairspring. Everybody work and think about without any gear. You know, there is so many things that we can start to think, but all of this has to be related with our DNA, you know. And for sure, I'm working since a long time for the Logical 2, for the next product. You will see next year a bit, and the year after, crazy things, but related with what we are able to do, related with our DNA. And it's not necessarily, you know, that everybody will do that. but related with the knowledge, with the skills, with all of the background that we have with the team, the fact that we build a manufacturer. This will be for me the time to show about how it was important for me since my MBA, it was right, manufacturer Romain Gauthier, and why we did it and why to build a manufacturer. And the answer in a way will be about what we will be able to do in the future. And yeah, Big Caliber will arrive next year related to all of this, you know, to all of this in terms of finishing, craftsmanship, for sure in terms of production, because we invested a lot, this is my background, and we invested a lot about to produce parts, we produce components also for all the brands. And when I did my MBA, this is one, it was a thing that I learned about Romain. If you can keep your own business value, all of the things that can give you a difference, and at the end of the day, give you a certain, you know, autonomy. This is the way that you have to train. And my background is different. And in the thinking about produce parts, you will see, for example, next year, me, my team, and all of the investment that we did, where we can go in terms of creativity. But I guess, you know, like Max, you know, it's completely different, and nobody were maybe thinking a day to see, you know, a watch company doing watches like this. So sometimes we have to go out the box, to go out the thinking on everything, and people are ready and open for everything in a way. If it's well done, if it's beautiful, and the quality is behind, I think the landscape, the space is just huge.
Thank you. This question is for all of you, but I'm going to start with Bart and Tim. How long does it take on average to develop and build one of your pieces?
On average, I would say it's about, if you do it in a normal pace, it's about 4 years. But we have done it sometimes in 2 years. Most of our timepieces, they were actually made in times of crises. Like the 1 Hertz was our second watch. And actually, we consider it as the first real Grönefeld, because this one really has the DNA, how we are working today, stainless steel bridges, etc. That piece was really built in 2009, when the financial crisis hit us, and our workload dropped with about 75%. So we had 2 choices: or we stop the Grönefeld brand, or we put all our money in and develop this 1 Hertz. And you know, in the times of crisis, a lot of our external friends that helped us building the watch, they had little to do, and they could give full throttle ahead creating this watch. But now we are to like 3 years in average for developing a new watch.
Okay. Same question for you, Max. How long on average does it take?
It's between 3 and 5 years, depending if you have to find completely new solutions, if you're recreating completely a whole regulator. Of course, at the beginning, when we started creating our own movements, we had no base, so we had to start from scratch. I mean, every integrated movement was asking for a completely new regulator and everything, barrel, you name it. So that takes a lot of testing. And then you can use them, you start getting a little box of parts, which can therefore take it down from 5 to 4 to sometimes 3 years. It's incredibly frustrating, because when you create, you want to see the result as soon as possible. And you have an idea, and you know that we're in 2020, whatever idea we're going to have now, at the best it's going to be coming out in 2024, 25. But that's why what we do is worthwhile. And that's why a lot of clients don't realize the labor of love, the insane engineering. I mean, the amount of times that when we come out with a new product, and I'm sure that Romain and Bart and Tim get the same sort of, you come out with a new product and you will have people of the industry coming up to you and say, so do you know what you're going to come out with next year?
Yeah.
Like, sorry. If I didn't know 4 years ago what's going to come out next year, it's not going to come out. And so it's there's a lot of pain, but it's part of what we do. We're not painters, we're not sculptors, we're engineers, watchmakers, creators. That's how it works.
Yeah, thank you. Romain, same question for you. How long on average does it take to develop and build a new watch?
I can say, you know, same type of time, but what I see, you know, for myself, more time I have, more creative and happy I'm with what I'm doing. And I'm happy that we don't have, you know, big stress to launch new product in the thinking about the logical tool. I have different ideas since 9 years, but stay in my mind and stay in the thinking about. And many things are like this, you know, for all of the project, you know, sometimes I don't place any urgent situation, but with the time, you do always something better than if you have a timeline to respect and a launch to do. And this is for me, you know, in a way, maybe why some brands started to stop doing some salon who place so much stress for everybody, for all of the team at any levels, that you need to be ready at that time. But sometimes, you know, to be ready is not the best as you can do is not at that time. For example, a small relation with my daughter. She came back a day at school, from school, with you know, a bad result regarding mathematics, and it was 60 questions about, you know, 2 multiplied by 7, you know, the simple things, you know, but the target was about the time. So it was like 1 minute, 60 answers, you know, 60 questions. And she didn't fill in maybe eight questions, something like this. And she came back with, you know, a bad result. And I was looking for about what she did. And in fact, all of the things that she did was right. She got that bad result because she didn't get in terms of timing. But if she has maybe 15 seconds more, everything will be done properly. So this is the things that, including, you know, schools sometimes and all of this, everything is based and focused on you know, on time, on timeline, as to be here. But for myself, I see that if I have no pressure about when to launch something, then you can give the best of what you can. So it's why, you know, yes, when you start clearly a production about maybe, okay, 3-5 years, but with all of the thinking, with everything, sometimes it's much more than that, I can say. And if you don't have any kind of real timeline, you can do better, for sure, for everybody.
Thank you. I have a question for you, Max. It's from Lance. He would like to, he says he knows the MB&F recently started selling pre-owned watches on your website. He'd like to know what the process and rationale for getting for doing that was. Like, you know, what were your thought processes around that, and how are you managing that?
Before I answer, Mila, my 7-year-old daughter, has asked for a product placement. She asked me to drink a bit of water out of that. There you go. So that's for Mila. Now we can go on to the rest. It's just, I built the company around one simple thought process. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If I was a MB&F collector looking for a product which is not made anymore, I would love the brand to help me find it. If I'm an MB&F collector who's got a watch and maybe would like to sell it, I would like the brand to help me. Of course, I can't help everybody, but the whole point was we opened this certified pre-owned, only putting products that you can't find anymore at any of our retail partners. So it's really, you're looking for something which does not exist anymore new. And so either we find pieces or we can go hunting. We get a lot of requests. We found 2-3 pieces just in the last 2 months from collectors who say, I'm looking for an HM3 Sidewinder in red gold. How can you find it for me? So that was one thing. The other thing is, I don't know if you've bought pre-owned watches anyway. Virtually every time I bought a pre-owned watch, I got, I'm not going to use the English word, which I should, but it was a disaster. Yeah. I mean, I always remember I bought once a Rolex for my wife, and I think that, so the dial wasn't original, which I don't really care. I'm not into reselling watches, but the case back wasn't the right one. The crown wasn't the right one. The crown stem wasn't actually even a crown stem, and the glass was actually a piece of plexi that the guys had cut out and glued onto it, and that's really killed me. And I was like, how can you ever buy a pre-owned watch without getting had? And so I was like, how can we help our customers or people, the collectors are trying to find it? So when you get a certified pre-owned, it's completely refurbished, serviced, it's as if it's new, and we go and hunt for you. So that was the idea. It's clearly not a business, but it's part of the services we offer to somebody who likes the brand. Again, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Great, thank you. So we're coming to the top of the hour. I have a couple more questions for you all. Romain, what is your favorite MB&F?
You know,
he doesn't even know our pieces. Romain, I'm going to punch you.
Difficult to say, but I remember, you know, a time that it was at the starting of Max. And when he launched one of the pieces, I sent to him, you know, a kind of congratulation about, because, you know, the thinking about to create something different, something with, you know, a mechanical vision behind is something not easy as we can imagine. And I can say, you know, all of the watches of Max are out of what people can expect or think about, and it's the only one to do that. You know, is the only one to do that, and in every kind of pieces that is doing is surprising in a way. You know, every collectors and all of this, and I appreciate. I can say globally, I can say all of them for sure. They are different size and all of this, but the creativity. You know, sometimes when I was young, I was considering only, for example, the state of the art, you know, with everything packaged in the same things. And today, you know, I really appreciate quite many brands, you know, if it's done properly and professionally with a real DNA behind, then after that, yes, everybody recognize a watch from Max, you know, for the thinking. Richard Mille the same, and it's like Audemars Piguet. So he created his own vision, own DNA, and I like to see what is doing. I'm not doing the same, hopefully, and because we need to be, you know, with what we are and the DNA. But I appreciate.
Thank you. Now, question for you, Max. What's your favorite Grönefeld?
For me, it's
art.
I'm not going to choose between both of them. What I love, amongst the first thing which I really adore with what they do is, of course, the design of their movements. It doesn't mean I don't like their watches. I love their watches. And last October, when we were having a coffee together, we started talking of how we could work together. So really, I love their work. But the design of their movements, the beauty, the elegance, it's just, wow. You turn it around, you're like, wow. And I would love one day to have something of you guys in one of our pieces. It would be absolutely incredible.
Wow, I would love to see that as well. I would love to see what a collaboration between you two between the two brands would look like. And then, so for Bart and Tim, what is your favorite Romain Gauthier watch?
Well, there's only one, the logical one.
Exactly.
No, it's of course the simple watches are nice, but we always like to see a little complication. And he made that constant force idea, the what is it, the fusee and chain idea, simplified. So it's really logical. And for us, that was number one. The chain with the rubies, it's absolutely beautiful. And I remember when I met Romain, I think it was before the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie started a couple of years ago. I told him, congratulations with your prize, because you are going to get it. And he got it. So, and now I am a judge as well. But yeah, no, it's a beautiful piece, and I love everything about it.
Okay, and the last question, we've had many requests for this. What watches are you all wearing today?
I'm wearing a prototype. I can't show you.
He's the 1 Hertz jumping seconds.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. Okay, well, we are, oh, sorry, Max, I didn't catch that.
So just Stephen McDonald's perpetual calendar on the Legacy machine.
Very nice.
And the skeleton, the micro rotor skeleton in titanium and carbon fiber case.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There's so many more questions in the Q&A we weren't able to get to. We just got a lot of participation. We have some comments from folks that say you guys are all very inspirational, and they're very, the whole audience loves your work. So thank you so much again for participating. I especially appreciate, Max, you taking time out of the time you spent with your kids. So please tell her we all like the mug. And Adam, just if you have any closing remarks.
Nothing. I just want to tell you all to stop smiling, and that's it. No more smiles. But seriously, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with us. This was incredible. Folks, this will be online later, so if you came in late, you will definitely be able to see the whole conversation. And we look forward to seeing you all in person. It will happen.
It will.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Adam.
All right,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Take care.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks for moderating.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
So much. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is like the awkward period where we just sort of.
So are we now offline?
How you